Doc, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Chris.
Doc, we're going to dive into the ADF Cyber Skills Challenge. I think certainly introduce what was going on. About 750 people. I imagine they weren't in one room either. Just introduce us to the Cyber Skills Challenge and we'll sort of dive into some of the details.
Yeah, sure, Chris. The Cyber Skills Challenge, or the ADF Cyber Skills Challenge, finished last week. It ran for 5 days. This year, it's actually been running since about 2016, but it started out as a bunch of Cheeto-eating enthusiasts in a back room. About 40 people were involved, but over the last couple of years, what we've sought to do is mainline the Cyber Skills Challenge and really breathe life into it to bring together the ADF cyber community. As you said, it wasn't just aimed at the Australian Defence Force. It's also aimed at public servants within Defence, from Defence Science and Technology Group, the Australian Cyber Security Centre, other federal and state departments and agencies, a number of industry and academia participants, but also... That's a flyover for my boss who's retiring today. That's an occupational
Beautiful.
In defence.
I thought it was the network going down.
F-35 Lightnings that just went straight over my office. So
beautiful.
There you go. But and a number of participants from our Five Eye partners, and I think we had about 65 out of Britain. So we had a vast array of people participating this year.
Maybe just describe, we had a very brief chat before, what's the mindset and the key outcomes that you're looking for in this? With so many people, and you've obviously got, strategic defence partners there as well. Yeah, what's the mindset as to the challenge, I suppose?
Well, the ADF journey in cyber started quite a number of years ago, but it's only really in the last 3 years that we've really started to take some big steps to grow our capability. And I'm talking about capability from assuring, I guess, that our network systems and platforms, particularly platforms which are all drive-by-wire these days, or certainly if it isn't, what's being introduced into service is drive-by-wire. We need cyber operators to make sure that these systems can actually do what we want them to do when we want them to do it. Not only that, but defend our own enterprise and in time potentially take steps against adversaries, network systems and platforms. So we've established a number of different employment categories in cyber across Navy, Army and Air Force. And in order to grow that, what we've done is, as I said before, mainline the Cyber Skills Challenge to really bring that cyber community together in defence. Cyber, as you know, is a team sport. It's not just a hacker on a keyboard or a hoodie-wearing hacker on a keyboard. There are intelligence analysts, there are network planners, there are technicians, you name it. The common theme or the common skill, the common interest that each of these people has is, I guess, a focus or a passion for problem solving. And that's what the Cyber Skills Challenge does.
We did an interview with the head of the Australian Cyber Security Centre, Abigail Bradshaw, and from the latest Australian cybersecurity strategy, there's also a bit of a focus now on critical infrastructure. So I suppose from a defence aspect as well, is that brought in terms of domestic national security as well? And is that maybe what is a key difference in terms of what defence is? We'll move on to maybe the background in terms of electronic warfare, but in a cyber context, the network is much, much bigger. The threat landscape is endless. Absolutely,
and that's a great question, and it's something that the federal government and a number of departments and agencies are dealing with at the moment. When you build capability, you build it to mirror a threat surface, and you do it to either mitigate, manage, or remove risk entirely. Obviously, in defence, that's a business that we're in. We're all about risk. But in cyber, unlike the physical warfighting domains, the risk surface or the threat surface is so wide. It's not just the ADF. It goes right through government. It goes right through essential services, right through the banking, finance, energy sectors, and through society as well. So what an adversary would seek to do to affect the ADF potentially would be to potentially target a system in society or an essential service that might actually affect our ability to project power. So does the ADF have a role here? No. Our role is to project power in support of the national interest as directed by government. The Australian Cyber Security Centre certainly has its own mandate, and that is to look after essential services. But as I said before, cyber is a team sport. We're closely aligned, partnered and joined up with the Australian Cyber Security Centre in the fulfilment of their task. So we're very, very cognizant that there is a gap there that could be exploited, and we seek to close that by effective partnering arrangements.
This is a new cultural mindset as well for defence. I don't know where to start, Doc, in terms of, should I go back and maybe what's your background, and you've got a 30-year degree pedigree, and maybe talk us through the way things have changed, and then at what point, because now you're talking about academia, industry, partnerships, and obviously our Five Eye partners as well. Where has been the key change, and when was that change? So maybe a little bit about your background from electronic warfare days, and then maybe bring us through to the current day and just that key change and the differentiator for you.
Sure. Well, as to my background, like any young fella, not so young these days, but certainly as a 19-year-old 30 years ago, I actually joined up in the last recession, the recession that we
1990, right?
Yeah, and I'm 30 years now into a 4-year plan. So for anyone out there that's looking at a career in defence, or as a young person that's sidelined by this recession, have a look at the ADF, because it certainly worked for me. I've never wanted to do anything else. I've always been fascinated by the jobs that I've been given and the challenges that have come my way. But look, I started out as an electronic warfare operator. My primary skill was as a high-speed Morse operator, and now I'm the Director of Cyber. I've been in and out of electronic warfare over the years, doing a bunch of different jobs. But I guess the sum of all of those experiences have really aimed me or prepared me for this position. Cyber really is, it describes how we all do business these days in an interconnected world. It's basically about IP streams, how they're directed, manipulated or exploited. And if you've got a background in ICT, if you've got a background in electronic warfare, or a bunch of other different experiences, then you can make a great career for yourself in cyber. But as far as partnering goes, Chris, the ADF has been partnering with agencies for a very long time. Cyber is just a new area that we're partnering in. For many, many years, we've been providing defence aid to the civil community, and you would have seen that when Defence supported the civil community. Indeed, through the fire season last summer, you would have seen that. In fact, you're still seeing it at the moment with the national response run by states, with the ADF supporting a number of different state initiatives in the response to COVID. So the Defence Force has always been a partner for the government and the Australian public, and cyber is no different. What cyber is, though, is it's just caused us to I guess, pivot and reposture as to how we partner and who we partner with in order to cover the threat that is presented by cyber. So what this has caused us to do is obviously go to industry, have a look at the best and brightest there. As you know, technology is moving so fast in this area at the moment that defence can't be a smart buyer or a smart user of technology unless we know what's out there. So we're always looking for the next best thing. We're always on the lookout too to understand what the consequences are of new technologies that are emerging. Same with academia, other departments and agencies. Equally, cyber is a team sport, and without functioning in that team, we're always going to fail.
Do you find these challenges allow you to sort of onboard some technology early as well? Whether that might be sort of almost red teaming in a way, in terms of a cyber range, and maybe I might even touch that back in terms of maybe what you are doing with some cyber ranges as well in this. But yeah, onboard some technology early, test it out, get used to it, and then maybe, how much of that do you do? Because there's a lot of partnering with industry I see it, from the likes of, say, AusCyber and then their role with maybe the startup and scale-up community and introducing them to government. How much of that is involved?
Oh, look, very much so. In fact, AusCyber, it's good that you mentioned them. They're a fantastically agile and forward-leaning group who I have quite a lot to do with. In fact, I ran a Defence Future Cyber webinar last Thursday with AusCyber. The other group I will give a shout out to while we're talking about it is ADISA, which is the Australian Defence Industry Electronic Support Association, or Industry Support Association. So anything to do with ICT, cyber and the like, AusCyber and ADISA are fantastic partners. But as far as cyber goes and tech, it really is stressing a lot of organisational mindsets and structures and even procurement practices. For many years, and let's talk about the industrial age here, not the information age, but when you think about the big systems that defence would buy, whether it be trucks, or tanks, aircraft or ships, they've got a long life of type. What I mean is that they spend a lot of time in design, a lot of time in production, and then we expect to get 30 to 50 years out of them, maybe even more in some cases. That's a very slow, deliberate procurement, acquisition and delivery process. Cyber is not like that. As you know, the cycle in cyber can be weeks, if not a week in some cases, and you need to posture your forces, if you like, or your capabilities such that they are very, very aware of what's in the marketplace, techniques that are being used, can engineer a solution to a problem and then field it almost immediately.
Are you in a real time? In fact, it's also in a real time too. You mentioned it could change in a week, but you can have an attack now, like just within the minutes. That's the type of time frame. You often see an adversary move their tanks and move their ships. You can kind of see them coming. Maybe you mentioned an F-35 flew over. We can hear it. We might not be able to see it, but yeah, I mean, is that part of this as well, of trying to say, okay, where do we need to be now? Because you can't kind of sort of see what the posture is and then plan for that. You almost need that posture in a real time, right?
Yeah, look, and this is something that the big tech companies, particularly those that market operating systems, have been dealing with for a long time. Whether it be Patch Tuesday or now dynamically updating your systems as pretty much all do. They've been doing that for a long time. They've been looking at the threats that are out there globally, and then coming up with a solution, issuing a patch, and making the problem essentially disappear as a result. For the rest of us, as our systems and platforms have been, I guess, progressively connecting or becoming interconnected, that's now a problem that is immediately more present for most of us. So it's really had to change. It's really forced a change in mindset of how we actually deal with our own cybersecurity, and it's only going to get worse. 5G is going to fundamentally change how we do and think about cybersecurity.
Maybe just talk us through your sort of the outcomes from this. Is there any winners? Like, it's a challenge, so is there any winners? I know we talked about it's not like a capture the flag type competition, but yeah, what were some of the key learnings that maybe you took away from 2020?
Oh, look, the Cybersecurity Challenge is a fantastic event. We have a very different focus to most other mainline events, which are purely competitions. What we do, as I said right at the start, what we do is focus on bringing our cyber community together, that cyber team together. What I want out of the Cyber Skills Challenge is for participants to finish the week actually having learnt something and developed their skill sets, in addition to competing for, I guess, bragging rights, if you like. So what we do is we run a couple of different seminars over a couple of days, provided by our industry and academia partners, and that might be on tactics, techniques, different technologies that people might not necessarily be familiar with. They have the opportunity, so participants have the opportunity to talk to and learn from these leaders in their fields, essentially. And then the CTF goes for about 55 hours, and through that we actually have mentors from a number of different departments and agencies, not just defence, that actually will assist participants with their problem solving, because we don't necessarily want hardened hackers or experienced hackers doing this. We want to appeal to all skill levels. So even people that are starting out, they're interested, but their skill levels may not necessarily be at a level where they can fly through each of the challenges. They can go to the mentors, seek help, and learn from it. So hopefully by the end of the week, people have actually learnt something, been stimulated, competed for bragging rights, as well as been brought together in a true sense of community.
I take it the bragging rights is between services, like the Navy.
Yes,
You know,
well,
yeah.
it's healthy.
You don't want the academics to win, I take it. Like
Well, I've got to give credit where credit's due. We actually had 2 teams from the Defence Science and Technology Group come in the top 3 this year of the overall events. So well done to Defence Science and Technology Group. They breed some very, very smart people down there.
So there is a concept of red teaming, blue teaming as well.
Very much so.
Yeah,
in some problems, yes. We tend to steer away from that in a CTF construct, though. For our cyber operators that are in defence, that do this for a living, that is very much part of what they do. Obviously, we're looking to defend our own networks from aggressors that might be inside.
Great. So look, maybe you've just briefly touched on it. What's your key call to action? What are the opportunities here? I mean, this is one. I mean, it's great to have you on and hear from the ADF like this in this context as well. Apparently, we are streaming on YouTube at least, so we got there as well. Yeah, maybe a call to action, and yeah, if you've got any URLs you want to sort of post up in terms of where people can go to find out more information.
Sure. Look, as far as cyber goes, the ADF has arrived. If you're looking for a very challenging career in cyber, then have a look at what the Army, Navy and Air Force, and indeed the public service within Defence offers. There is a multitude of different roles and responsibilities that you can take up. In addition, for those that are looking or considering a career in defence but aren't quite there in terms of commitment, check out our ADF Cyber Gap program. This is an initiative of the federal government we're running at the moment. Every year we put through 250 Cyber Gap participants. What we do is fund a training or an education course between the level of Cert 3 and a master's degree for a year. And all we ask for in return is for you to participate in a number of different work experience initiatives that are laid on by Defence. That will expose you to what Defence offers in cyber. At the end of that time, there is no expectation that you'll come in and serve or join the ADF and serve, just that you know more about what we do and the opportunities that are available. So check out the ADF Cyber Gap program. But as I said, Chris, the ADF is certainly looking to build our cyber force, and we are looking for people who are up to the challenge.
Great. Look, thank you so much. Like I said, we'll put the recording out, so I'm sure that the recording is working. But we've been joined by Colonel Robert Doc Watson on the ADF Cyber Skills Challenge. He's the Director for the Joint Cyber Directorate from the Information Warfare Division of the Australian Defence Force. So, Doc, pleasure meeting you, mate, and well done. Hopefully we'll see you in 2021. Good.
Great to be with you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to turn you off now, and we're going to be joined now by Nick Harlow, the Senior Director with HackerOne. Just let me swap this over. Bring you up. Nick, we should be able to hear, well, I certainly see you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. This has been seamless. Nick Harlow, Senior Director of Product Management with HackerOne. Where are you, mate? You're in California somewhere?
Yeah, just based in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Beautiful. Yeah, we had a swap over sort of late last night, so pleasure to have you on. Nick, maybe introduce us. We are technically streaming, but we're definitely recording for you. We were going to touch on the 2021 outlook and some of the CISO insights that HackerOne did, but maybe introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll dive into a bit of a Q&A.
Sure. So I'm one of the senior product directors at HackerOne. HackerOne, in case you're not familiar, has one of the largest communities of ethical hackers, and we help our customers to discover and resolve critical vulnerabilities before they can be exploited by malicious adversaries.
So you have a bug bounty program as well, yeah?
Correct. So a portfolio of products, Bug Bounty is for sure our flagship, but we also have what we call a VDP, which is a responsible vulnerability disclosure offering, as well as pen testing.
Okay. So maybe, I don't know how much you're across this particular survey. I've got some figures in front of me. Maybe tell us a little bit more about the CISO World Insights survey that you did and then some of the key findings.
Yeah, absolutely. So roughly once a year, we engage with all of our customers, and basically they participate in a survey where they determine, answer questions about the types of risks that they face, the things that are top of mind for them, and then obviously we take that data and produce a report, and cross-analyze that against our broader database of vulnerabilities that we receive over the course of the year through our hacker-powered security programs. And so, we have done that again for 2020, and we have had a bunch of interesting insights that we can discuss as a result of that effort.
Yeah, look, so the results aren't too surprising, but certainly supporting the trend. 36% said their digital transformation initiatives have accelerated as a result of COVID-19. 30% have seen more attacks on their IT systems, and 64% believe their organisation is more likely to experience a data breach. So maybe that second one, the third one, 64% believe their organisation is more likely to experience a data breach, which indicates the awareness is up and their expectations up as well.
Awareness is up, the expectation is up. I think one of the things that we've seen and that has affected this is the rapid acceleration of a lot of these digital transformation initiatives. So pretty much overnight, or in the space of a few weeks' time, a lot of our customers, and in fact organizations all over the world, have had to shift from a either mostly in person, mostly on-premise mode of operation with their employees and with their partners, their vendors, and so on and so forth, to a remote mode of operation. And as we say, a lot of these initiatives, they have kind of gone live, and they feel like they're maybe a little bit ahead of their skis as far as being fully ready for all the implications of this. And so, our partners in the CISO organizations that we work with have certainly had their work cut out for them, staying ahead of the various security threats out there.
Yeah, CISO is definitely under the pump. What are some of the key sort of takeaways for you and what you're seeing even there in the US? I imagine it's very similar around the Western world now anyway, but what are some of the key hotspots? Has it been sort of the teleconferencing? Has it just been sort of the crossover from the users using personal laptops to access corporate networks? What's been some of those key vulnerabilities that the remote workforce and remote working has created?
So there's a few things. In terms of the sort of top 10 vulnerabilities, we kind of see a lot of the usual suspects on here: cross-site scripting, improper access control. This second one, I think, becomes a little bit more prevalent when you have people interacting with their work systems from a home network, potentially from a personally owned device. And so I think, whereas there are a couple of these items that we see on the list this year that may have been either not on the list in previous years or had a somewhat lower position. Server-side request forgery, for example, we see that coming up significantly higher and significantly more, especially as we see our customers, accelerating their migration to cloud services. These are the types of issues that are that our customers are dealing with and that we're seeing in the industry at large.
Maybe explain server-side requests. Maybe just talk us on that. Is it a DNS issue?
So, as we see, basically you have the attacker has a mechanism by which they can sort of push a URL to a service and then cause that service to read data from the URL or to push potentially sensitive data to that URL. And so this is a way that attackers are able to get access to internal systems that previously may have been within a hardened on-premise security perimeter, but which have been migrated to the cloud, and some of those issues are still needing to be properly fortified.
Are they getting credentials that way? Are they?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. So if you think about the on-premise security perimeter previously having a firewall or an IPS, where that was kind of the main security mechanism, and then some organizations felt that they could have license to not secure some of the internal services quite as with quite as much strength as they might have otherwise, and so that this obviously is an opportunity for attackers to get into those services, especially if they move online and outside of that strong perimeter.
Fair enough, and I imagine 2021 outlook is pretty much the same. We do say that every year. It's changes slightly, other than scale. What are some of the key outlooks for 2021?
So a few things. I think we expect to see continued acceleration. If we look across, our own industry and our peers, we expect people to be continuing to work from home for the next several months. More of this digital transformation continuing at the same pace. And so we're not kind of going to go back to what the old normal was anytime soon. I think what this actually means there is that we're going to see a larger and more porous attack surface as organizations' data, as their systems are much more distributed than they had been previously, and as a result of that, security teams are going to be kind of working hard to make sure that these risks are managed properly. I think the other piece that's critical to think about here is just as we've seen this massive shift towards greater digital transformation, towards greater remote collaboration, and all of the sort of systems required to facilitate that have come online in a massive way. We've also seen businesses affected by economic slowdown, and so just as you could think of the need for security has ramped up, and then the need for these types of this type of oversight to be particularly strong. We see organizations challenged to be able to grow their teams, to grow their budgets in order to get around this, and so the
business case, the business case, and the business case argument becomes much more important. Definitely something I've seen around, particularly with CISOs, is their hunger for learning about communication strategies and delivering the right strategy in order to win that budget that they need. So definitely, is that something maybe that we can link back? The role of the CISO is changing along with the importance, but also if you really do need to be a very good communicator in that CISO role, maybe less so on the security side.
Yeah, I see this as a continuation of a trend that's probably about a decade long at this point. So when we started to see the rise and the frequency of data breaches increase, and obviously the impact of those, both from a like regulatory penalty perspective as well as a loss of revenue and loss of customer base for those organizations affected. Suddenly security starts becoming a matter of existential importance to a lot of organizations, and I would say that that's where we start to see C-level security-focused executives, and this also then starts to become a matter for corporate boards of directors and other governance bodies. So I think this has been happening for a long time, but the various confluent
we keep talking about it though.
Yeah, well, no, it's good. I mean, all of the sort of concurrent crises that we see today are just reinforcing these long-term trends.
Yeah. Maybe just tell us a little bit about your background, and I wouldn't mind finishing off a little bit of an update on the bug bounty program and any trends in that. So, what's your background? How long have you been with HackerOne?
So I've been with HackerOne for about 8 or 9 months now.
Got it.
And have been doing product management across different technology domains for a number of years, and so have kind of covered a broad range of things. But in terms of security domain expertise, I actually started my career as a software engineer and working in identity and access management technology, and subsequently transitioned to product management and worked on network intrusion prevention, endpoint protection, before exploring a few other areas and then finally coming back to security within the last year or so.
And product management, the role, is it like account management? You manage account clients?
So product management, the way I like to frame this is we make sure that our company builds the right technology.
So you're on the product side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the right technology for the right customer and do it at the right time. So look for interesting market opportunities, problems that aren't being addressed very well, and see what kind of technology we can build to address those.
Do you feed out of the bug bounty program in that context?
In what sense when you say feed out?
If they find a bug in a piece of software that might actually sort of uncover what might be a common vulnerability, and then build a product focused on that, or add that as a feature. Yeah, I'm just wondering how that might link back into products.
So the technology that we build is a platform to facilitate the operation of our bug bounty programs, our vulnerability disclosure programs. So it's less about looking at the specific vulnerability content that we receive from our ethical hacker community, and more about how do we facilitate our customers' workflow, right? Like we're helping them through our hacker marketplace to discover these unknown vulnerabilities, and the technology we build is how do we enable them to figure out what's the most important thing for them to be worried about, and how to get it addressed as quickly as possible, and how to make this as seamless a part of their existing workflow as we can.
Are you seeing a trend with the bug bounty program coming online? More companies are taking up that particular offer or that service?
Yes. So if we look at the last year or so of our sort of go-to-market history, I would say somewhere around 34 to 35% of our active bug bounty programs have come online within the last year. So we've really seen an acceleration, and a greater and greater acceptance of this sort of leveraging of ethical hacker bandwidth and brain power to address the other side of the dark side of that coin, right?
Well, definitely, I've seen some news out of HackerOne. I think you're reaching $1 million bounties being paid to some hackers. So how's the community itself? You finding any issues as the ethical hacker community grows? Is the leaders in the pack sort of staying the same, or what are the changes you see in that community?
So a few things. First of all, we continue to have new hackers signing up to join our community, and at all at all skill levels. So we have people who are just getting started and sort of interested in this type of work, and participating in our Hacker 101 program, our CTF programs, stuff like that, as well as the more experienced hackers who really dive into our bug bounty programs. We continue to see growth, pretty robust growth year over year, both in the volume of vulnerabilities that are submitted through our platform.
So it's not like they're not finding anything. There's plenty out there to go find.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's interesting. You're up against. We just had the Australian Defence Force on just prior to you, and pretty much the same thing, where their programs are growing, and on the recruitment drive. Is that where HackerOne is as well? You're constantly on that recruitment drive. Are you finding it difficult to find new members to come online?
Not really.
Maybe I'll rephrase it in terms of, is it competitive? Can say an ethical hacker go to different platforms? They might go there's others out there other than HackerOne, obviously. Can they be using multiple platforms?
They can. So the barrier to entry is fairly low. I think, as opposed to the gentleman from the Australian Defence Forces. We sort of will take anybody, and if they turn out to have
and then try and train them up, right?
Yeah, we give them opportunities to learn. That they're obviously bound by our terms of service, our code of conduct, and all of that. But then they have the opportunity to start getting productive and submitting vulnerabilities as just as quickly as they can do it. So little slightly different set of entry criteria than I suspect the defense forces would have.
Yeah, you don't have to carry a rifle with the bug bounty program.
Correct. In a lot of cases, the outcome is very similar, though, and we actually view ourselves not as competitors for these types of defense organizations, government agencies, but we actually work very closely and have a significant number of these as our customers, including the American Department of Defense and a fairly lengthy list of agencies that are HackerOne customers.
Well, obviously, government are using bug bounty programs as well, and we've seen that here in Australia as well. HackerOne, where are you located? We'll sort of close off for now in terms of our time. We'll close off with a call to action, but where have you got offices? I know you've got one up in Singapore, which is where we're getting most of our feeds from.
Yep. So we have offices in Singapore. The headquarters are in San Francisco. We have our EMEA sales headquarters is in London, but we have a very large development shop in Groningen, which is in the Netherlands, and two of our co-founders are from there. So a large team there that we work with.
Netherlands, right?
Correct.
Netherlands, right? Okay, fair enough. Well, look, thank you. It's HackerOne.com? Is it that simple?
HackerOne.com.
Beautiful. We'll check it out. Thank you to your team for organising this. I think it's late afternoon there for you. Late afternoon?
Late afternoon.
Beautiful. Well, I hope you had a great day, Nick. Thank you very much for joining us, and hope to speak to you again, mate. All the best.
I hope so. Thank you.
Good on you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was our live stream. Let me just walk through. I'm not going to do any news of the day, but I think I had, let me just cover off my slides 1 second. There we go. So we've been joined today by COL Robert Doc Watson, Director, Joint Cyber Directorate Information Warfare Division on the ADF Cyber Skills Challenge 2020. and that was Nick Harlow, Senior Director, Product Management, HackerOne, looking at the 2021 outlook. Can't remember the slides coming up. In terms of the marketplace, at 1 o'clock, if you've still got time, about in the next hour, we're going to run on our final series, episode 4, with our panel of security consultants, looking at the future directions for smart connected buildings, precincts and cities. Pretty much an open platform with a Q&A. We've got about 80 in that particular audience. I thought I'd just do a highlight from the marketplace. This report came out. This is a Trend Micro research report, Malicious Uses and Abuses of Artificial Intelligence. Looks a very interesting report with numerous pages of sort of references. So if you want to search for references and the amount of information coming in on the exploitation of AI, this was a report to have a look at. So check it out. Other than that, I'm going to leave it off. That was our kind of first live edition of My Security TV on our Restream platform, and I was reasonably happy with that. Hopefully, I've been told it did go live to LinkedIn and YouTube, and I'll check it out. So look, thank you. We'll be back next Tuesday with Yubico, and also this Friday with the Malaysian Cybersecurity Strategy and Insight. So I'm going to sign off now. Thank you very much for joining us.